Hello, welcome to the Full Frame with Mark and Ben. I'm Mark, he's Ben, and not only are we sat the closest together we've ever sat, but in this episode we're going to be talking about our go-to camera.
Our favourite film camera. Your first film camera recently.
Yeah.
That kind of started it all, didn't it? Well, actually, it started it all for me as well, and that's why we're so fond of it.
I got it because you recommended it.
Yeah.
And then I've bought two, and you've had how many?
Well, there's two there, but I think I've had four. One of them I immediately sent back because it was broken. So if you count, I don't know if you count that one.
What is the camera in question?
It is the Nikon FE. If you are a frequent watcher of our videos, you'll know that this is probably our favourite camera, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my go-to camera.
I mean, we like the Rolly,
but
this is like...
the go-to.
Old faithful.
Yeah.
Young faithful.
Yeah.
In comparison to the Rolly.
This is the wife.
This is the wifey. Yeah, and we've got this cool top-down shot. Hello. Oh, hello. You can't really wave up. Anyway, so we're going to show off some bits. My idea for this video was for it to be the ultimate guide to this camera. I feel like between us we've had like 5. You've had 2, haven't you?
You've had 4, so 6.
So 6. Between us we've had 6. We've both had to have repairs.
Both of mine have been repaired.
Yeah.
This one died when I was in Spain. It was the only camera I had on me.
Yeah.
But it now works really well. And even the winder's gone back to 0. It did go back to 6 until recently.
It fixed itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. The point is we've got quite a lot of experience with these cameras now after the 2 years we've been owning them.
Yeah.
And I feel like now's a good time for us to kind of do like a long-term review / guide to these cameras. So.
Do you want to kick us off with history?
Yeah. So the history of the FE. I probably should have revised. I don't know the exact dates.
You guess, and I'll tell you.
I already saw it. So 78 to 83.
78 to 83.
Okay, so the FE was 78 in production from 78 to 73, but
83.
83, yeah. But this chassis has been used for much longer than that, right up to 2006, I think. Does it say that?
Yeah, 2006. Well done.
For the FM3A,
yeah.
which I actually would say the FM3A is a better camera, but a lot more expensive.
And it's a really nice design as well, isn't it? It's just
classic, isn't it? Classic, yeah. So yeah, this was kind of the successor to the FM, although they kind of sold alongside each other. So the FM being the fully mechanical version, it only has a battery for the Lightmeter, doesn't require a battery for the shutter or anything like that, whereas this does. But yeah, any other history bits? Let me just see.
No, you've got it all there.
Yeah, you can show pictures.
FE, FM, FE2.
FE2. Oh yeah, and of course, what came after this was the FE2. But you would think that's a natural upgrade, but we will get to reasons why later. That I still think the FE is the best.
Okay.
Even though there is an FE2.
Because you did a lot of this research, and because you know a lot more about cameras than I do, I've got a feeling this episode will be you talking and me going.
Well, no, I'll let you.
Yeah.
I'll let you read some bits if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Features, Ben.
Features. So I guess we've got a lot of notes, but we'll try and make a brief overview of the features. So it's an auto exposure camera, which on a camera this sort of era, it's not really auto how you would think it nowadays. So it's auto in the sense that it figures out the exposure for you, but you still kind of need to be conscious of your ISO.
So you have to adjust that to what it's telling you.
Yeah. So you have to adjust your aperture, and it will figure out your shutter speed for you. So it's essentially, if you've ever shot with a digital camera, it's like shooting an aperture priority, which actually I shoot digital aperture priority quite a lot. Multiple exposure lever. It has. This is actually, I didn't realise this because obviously this was like my first film camera. A lot of cameras don't have the multiple exposure lever. Right. This essentially, you just are your camera's empty?
That one is.
Can I just show it on here? So essentially, you pull this lever and then crank, and you'll hear it doesn't
wind the film.
the film. It doesn't go.
So I guess it like pulls something back and then just sort of
It just cocks the shutter. It just cocks the shutter,
Yeah.
but it disengages the cog to wind the film on.
bloody clever.
Yeah, and so it's actually you can actually do as many exposures as you want. So you can shoot that and then do another one, and as you can see, it's still on S there. And yeah, I didn't realise actually that a lot of cameras don't have one of those. You kind of have to either shoot the whole roll, like Daisy does, shoot the whole roll,
then do it again.
mark it. And all
I kind of assumed everything had that.
yeah, so did I actually. But I mean, just because we've had it, this is all we've had really. So anyway, yeah. So nice little feature, but I think overlooked really.
Lenses.
Yeah, lenses.
Compatible with all Nikon F mount lenses.
Yeah.
But not G lenses.
Yeah. So
What does that mean?
so Nikon have probably one of the most extensive collection of lenses, especially for the old mounts. They were so mass produced back in the day, and they're actually really good quality. So we've got a few here. What have you got on this? This is a 50mm, isn't it?
Yeah, I think my 28's in the bag.
That's all right. I've got a 28, but there's a 50mm 1.8 that's on Mark's camera there.
When you first start using it, I think that feels really backwards and weird.
What does?
Because I was used to like Canon lenses fitting onto the camera.
Oh, because it turns the other way.
Yeah, so
it
goes like,
does.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I think the first few months of using it, I was like, this feels really backwards. So I was used to like Canon.
I kind of obviously I've always shot Nikon on digital as well, and I think you just kind of get used to not.
Yeah, I got used to it now.
But I get used to not knowing what way it's going to go because I've got multiple cameras, and sometimes they do go the other way. So, yeah, it's kind of just like But yeah, people who like come from Canon and like, what the hell is going on here? I've got a 35mm. This is a really cheap lens. I think I paid £60-something for this. It's an f2.5, pretty usable. I've got this is a 28, I think.
That's the 85, isn't it?
No, this is a 28 F. Where is my
big
85? It's on the camera.
It's on the camera.
Yeah, this is a 28 F2, which is look how much bigger it has to be for 0.8 extra f-stop. That's crazy, isn't it? Because you're
I just judge your lenses. I look at them and guess the size, like what it is. Because that's the big one. That's the 85.
Yeah. So Mark has the
28
28mm 2.8.
Should I go get it?
Yeah, might as well. It'd be interesting to show the size comparison because this is a very small. I mean, the glass is probably better, but this is a very small upgrade, but a massive size difference. Yeah. So this is your. I think these are part of the E series. Yeah, E series, which are like usually the more budget like range, but still really good. I kind of value like the smaller lenses nowadays. I kind of hate how big this is.
You've got way more lenses than I have. I've got a 28 and 250s. You've got 50, 28, 35 and 85.
Yeah. 50mm, we both got one of these, haven't we? You've actually got two 50s.
Yeah. Well, I got one that was broken, and then I sent the camera off to repair, and he fixed the lens as well.
Yeah, which is great. And we'll get on to repairs actually, because that is we've both had a few, so we'll definitely get on to that. So yeah, 50mm 2.8. I think like every camera brand does a 50mm 2.8, the nifty 50 as they call it. Yeah, another good lens, really small. I love just how like compact this is on the camera, and here is an example of how the how it goes on the wrong way to all the other brands. Yeah, I mean, just like that's such a nice small package, I think. And I'll just quickly show the 85. It's an 85 f2. Yeah, not much to say about that, but yeah, all prime lenses. None of the zoom lenses are really worth talking about from this era. So
why not?
They're just they're all quite high aperture, and I like wider aperture lenses, so you get more light,
Nice.
And yeah, you get better quality with prime lenses, especially in this era. So this is one feature that's a Pro over the FE2. So older style Nikon lenses, they don't have this tab here which allows the lens to tell the camera what aperture it's at, and it basically, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on there, but it basically sort of pushes this bit here across, and on the FEs it has this little button which allows you to flip that out the way, and you can put non-AI lenses on it, which are just older lenses. They would have been on like the Nikon F and the Nikon F2. So the FE2 does not have that. So you can only have the AIS lenses on, or AIS lenses, which have that little.
Did they basically put that on, take that off then to sell newer lenses?
I don't know. I think like at the time when the FE2 came out, they were probably like, no one's using these old non-AI lenses anymore. Like, we might as well just get rid of that. Whereas this would have been released in a bit of a crossover period. Like the F2 would have, I think the F2 would have been the pro camera at the time. I don't think the F3 would have even been out when this first came out. So yeah, just a little, it's quite a small feature that actually I've never made use of because I've never bought a non-AI lens. But you know, if you have one, if you came from like a Nikon F or a Nikon F2, you can use those lenses on this.
Clear Lightmeter.
Yeah, okay, so we might be able to get a shot through the viewfinder. The Lightmeter on these is like the older style kind of needle that goes up and down like a scale, and it's a very visual Lightmeter. Like, you can really tell. Can you see it on the left?
Yeah, just about.
You just need something bright, don't you, to show?
Try not too bright.
So it's a very visual Lightmeter that just shows much more information that's easier and quicker to read than the later Lightmeters that came on, like the F3, which is essentially just a tiny little screen that shows like plus or minus. And I had an F3, and that was one of the things.
Why didn't you like the F3?
I didn't like that.
You were well looking forward to getting an F3.
Yeah. I mean, it is good camera. It's nice. It's nice to hold, and it's nice to operate. But I think it's leaning into the too electronical side of these cameras. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I prefer it to be more mechanical.
That's what I quite like about this, is it feels like mechanical. That's what I like about the Rolly as well.
Yeah, it just feels reliable. Feels more reliable. The F3 just doesn't feel reliable. Like the button was mushy and didn't always shoot, which is like, that is the worst feeling ever, when like, you know, the camera works but you just need it to, you need the button to work. Like, do you know what I mean? And it just doesn't. But anyway, going back to the Lightmeter, yeah, the F3 just has a tiny little screen, and I just feel that doesn't show that much information. And I think it's widely considered that the Lightmeters like that are much better, just easier to read, and you really know where you are in, you know, the scale of shutter speeds.
Yeah, I think for me, when I first started as well, it's just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I need to do this.
Yeah,
to make
like
this happen.
At the bottom is slow.
Yeah.
1 second, 2 second. At the top is fast. You're going to get, you know, a still shot. Whereas like the F3 just shows like a number, and then if you're in manual, it just shows like plus or minus. So it's I don't know. It's not that user friendly.
The battery check light, so it's a little red light, but it goes red and then it goes dim.
You can, there's a pretty decent shot there.
Oh, there you
see
go.
it there.
That will go dim when it's dying. And as I said earlier, when I was in Spain, my battery died or something happened to it, and it needed to be sent off to repair.
Yeah.
But I had like 4 days left in Spain with no camera. Which was disappointing.
That I would say is one of the cons of this camera, is that it is very dependent on the batteries, but they do last a long time. And I put on the notes that they go dim because I noticed mine were quite dim recently, and I was like, that's weird, because it works fine. but the light was dimmer than my other one, and I thought I'll swap the batteries over, and it did go brighter. So you do get a bit of warning if that.
Yeah. How often do you check yours? How often?
What the check?
Do you check the battery?
With the light?
Yeah.
Every now and then.
I've not done it for ages.
You just compare it to mine if it's darker, because these are like brand new.
Oh, that is dim. That one.
Yeah, that's about to die.
I've got batteries in my bag.
Oh yeah, that is dim. Anyway, yeah, and they do seem to last quite a while. Like, when did you change them, do you think?
Oh, like earlier this year, like March or May or something.
So I think they're pretty good. They're not gonna
do that after.
Yeah, and I've basically just bought a load of batteries, and I just put them in. I put 2 in every bag that I have.
Yeah, I've got.
So whenever I've got a camera bag with me, I've got 2 batteries. It's an electronically controlled shutter, which means it needs the batteries, and the speeds are timed electronically rather than mechanically. So yeah, the FM. The reason the FM works without a battery is because the shutter speeds are fully mechanical. So there is, I don't know how it works exactly, but there's a spring or something that actually sets the speed that the shutter needs to go. So you can have no battery in that, and it's like the Rolly. The Rolly works with no battery. Yeah. Whereas this actually needs battery power to determine the shutter speed time.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't actually put a note on here about M90. So on this, so
this is whenever my camera dies,
you put it into M90.
Put it in M90. And
yeah.
It might fix it.
The M in M90 stands for mechanical. So this is the one. This is the one shutter speed that will work with no battery. So if you were to run out of battery, you can still shoot with it's 1/90th of a second. Hence, yeah, I just showed it. Yeah. It would work with that. You could technically still shoot, but obviously it's not ideal. Or exposure lock. Oh yeah, this is something that I think a lot of people don't realise this has. Obviously, we know how the Lightmeter works. You point it at something bright, and it will go for a faster shutter speed. Point it somewhere dark, it'll go down. With the self-timer lever, if you actually push it the other way...
Oh, I've never done that.
Yeah. You can point it at something. So say you want to meter... You've got a scene that's very contrasty, and you want to meter for the brighter area. So you want the shadow to be super dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you want it to be the correct exposure for the bright area. You could point your camera at the bright area, push the exposure lock with like your middle finger, and then take the photo.
Yeah.
And then that will... So you'd lock the exposure, reframe, and it will meter as if you were pointing at the thing. Do you see what I mean? No. You're basically tricking the meter into metering for a different lighting situation. Do you know what I mean?
In what situation would you do that?
Well, like I just said, if you had a say you've got like a really shadowy area, really bright area right next to each other. There's like a wall or something like a shadow, and you want to take a photo right in the middle, right? The meter is going to try and average it out. So if it's super contrasty, you'll have like a slightly...
So it'll meet in the middle.
Yeah, and you'll see some shadow detail, but then your highlights might be a bit blown out. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you say you wanted the brighter area to be exposed, you would point it at the bright area, lock your exposure, reframe, and then it will keep that exposure, and it won't consider the dark area.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's cool that it has the feature, but it's not necessarily any easier than just going into manual mode and changing the...
Yeah, I don't think I'll be using that. I wouldn't know how.
Okay, anyway. Self-timer.
Explain that.
Yeah, go on.
So like when we're shooting at night, this shows how like thick I am with the cameras.
Thick.
So you don't want any like judder or movement on it. So you put the self timer on, or if you're shooting a family picture and you need to run around and get in on it,
Yeah, of course.
pull the timer down.
Get it up to the mic.
Then it winds down. You run round to the front, put your arm around your nan, and then it goes. There you go.
I don't know exactly how long that is, but you can time it yourself if you'd like.
Whatever that was.
I'll just show that on here. So it's wind it down like that, and then obviously you'd have to.
Ready? I'll time it.
Oh yeah. Well, this one seems longer.
10.
10 seconds. There you go. That's pretty good. One thing we figured out with this self timer that I love is that you don't have to pull it all the way.
The whole way.
So you can just like crank it there, and it will give you what, a second
Yeah,
maybe.
so if you're filming in a dodgy area of Birmingham and you can see some thugs coming towards you, you can just quickly go and then do a 1 second wait.
We were kind of using it so that like we didn't get camera shake, but we didn't want to stand there for 10 seconds. So like it eliminates that. And it also you'll see it if I show it here. It it flips the mirror up first.
Okay.
So you'll see it, and then it does the shutter at the end, so it minimises even the mirror movement. It will minimise that, so you'll see it. Oh. You can see it's flipped the mirror up, and then it takes the photo.
This is how to load film into a Nikon FE. So Ben's going to shout out the proper words for these, but I'm going to call it this little spool. So you pull the little button there, pull that up, pop it open, open her up, spread them, put the film in, push this bit down just to like hold her in place, pull the film across, tighten her up, and then I like to pull the film round until it's like in line there but not gone all the way around once. Close it, and then wind her on, 1, 2. You'll know it's loaded right because this will spin. And also something you should always do as well, make sure your ISO is set to what the film is. So I've got Ilford XP2 400. Make sure it's set to 400, which it is.
It has a flash it has a flash hot shoe.
So that's that.
We'll get on. That's that.
Where I normally put our GoPros.
Exactly. We'll get on to like I've got a separate section for like extras and things, and we'll get on to flashes. But it's essentially just a basic flash hot shoe. It does not have TTL. It's just a trigger. It just triggers a flash that's on top of it, which I actually quite like. I actually don't like TTL that much. Okay, I wanted to do like a feature comparison with the FE2. Like if you're thinking about getting an FE, it's worth knowing what the upgrade to it is like. So the FE2 has a 1/4000th of a second maximum shutter speed. So these just go up to 1/1000th. So that's pretty impressive, actually. 1/4000th is crazy, like for a camera of that age. But the reason for that is because they have a titanium shutter.
Okay.
Yeah, so the shutter is actually physically lighter, which allows them to do it at faster speed.
You've really done your research.
That's proper nerdy, innit?
Yeah.
Autism.
Takes pictures.
What else was there? TTL Flash. So I just said about the flash. The FE2 does have TTL. So if you are a big flash person, if you do a lot of flashing, then that might be something that you want in a camera. But I have a pretty good flash here for the FE. Yeah. That is really good without TTL. So I would argue you don't even need TTL. I did touch on earlier about the non-AI lens little giblet. Don't know what you'd call it. The FE2 does not have that. So if you have non-AI lenses, you will not be able to put them onto an FE2. And this is another weird little quirk between the two. The FE2, the FE2's mechanical shutter speed is 2/50th of a second, whereas the FE is 1/90th, as we've already shown. And some would argue that the 1/90th of a second on the FE is actually more usable because it's going to let in more light. You know, if you actually were in a situation where you've your batteries have run out and you still need to keep shooting for whatever reason, 1/90th is going to give you a lot more headroom to close your aperture down, or if you need to. Whereas 1/250th, you know, if you're in a dark area, there's not many lenses that are going to let you shoot at 2/50th of a second, you know, even wide open. So the mechanical shutter speed on the FE is probably better. But I can't say I've actually ever shot with M90. Like, if my camera's broken, I'm just like gutted. I don't want to keep shooting. So, but you know, if you were in that situation, what lenses we actually use the most?
50.
Use the 50 the most. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes 28. Like if we're in London and it's like I want to get a wider one.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I want
to get a wide on. I use a 28, but you use the 85 a lot, I noticed.
Well, I've actually been trying to like rein it in recently because when we went on the Candido photo walk, I didn't have the 35, so I had all three lenses in my pockets. So I had two lenses in my pocket and one lens on the camera. And I honestly was taking like one photo, switching lens because I'd see something else, you know, and I was just like, this is getting ridiculous. And you know what I went and did?
Bought another one.
Bought another lens.
Yeah.
No, but for a genuine reason, because the 35 is supposed to be a pretty good middle ground.
Between the 28 and the 50.
Yeah. So, and I actually have like gone out a few times. I went to London a few weekends ago and just took this. Did not take anything else. And yeah, I actually really liked it. I didn't
nice.
I didn't feel the need to have anything else too much.
I do find the 50 sometimes too tight and then the 28's too wide.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But
well, and what's interesting is, you know, my Fuji X100F, that is a crop sensor, but it's the lens is the equivalent of a 35. So shooting this with a 35mm lens is like shooting my Fuji. And obviously the Fuji lens is fixed. I can't change that. You have to have that focal length. And I love shooting the Fuji. So I was like, well,
nice.
If 35mm works for the Fuji, it will work for me on the Nikon. So yeah, I would definitely recommend getting a 35 or a 50 if you are looking at getting one and you just want to buy one lens. Okay, extras. I guess it's just straps, flashes, and then I've got this cool, like,
rather
wooden,
natty little grip.
Yeah, it actually is really nice. It's just a lot easier to hold like this, like one-handed. It's just, you know, it does make it a little bulkier because it's here. Oh, and my favourite feature is it has the tripod mount built into it. So I never have to put a tripod mount on this.
Okay.
That's the tripod mount there, look. This bit.
Oh, that just goes in?
Oh, yeah, that goes straight into the tripod.
Okay,
Most tripods have a universal...
Oh, right, so that will go into my one as well?
Potentially, yeah.
If
it has the same...
I see, because it's the shape there,
Yeah. And another cool little feature, I don't know if I've got anything that can take this off, but underneath here, there's a little space to put two batteries. If you want to spend some extra money on your FE.
How much was that?
I think it was like 50 quid.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, which is like, you know, it's aluminium, that's actually real wood, and really nice build quality. So, yeah. I wanted to just touch on straps as well. You've got a few different straps.
I think I've got this one that like came with it, which is very basic.
Yeah.
And then I got this one for Christmas. Which
My
favourites.
You get complimented on that.
Yeah.
On that strap quite a lot, yeah.
But I did go around with a Canon strap for a bit.
Yeah.
And I did get comments on that as well.
Comment on that. That's very digital rev of you.
Yeah.
Well,
I just thought it'd be quite funny to have a Nikon camera and a Canon strap.
Yeah.
And it did annoy one man in London one time, so...
Kai Wong would like that. He used to do that on
I don't see the problem with it.
It's well funny. Because there will be people that get annoyed.
Yeah.
I'm a bit funny about straps, and I'm a bit of a Peak Design fanboy.
Yeah.
So I've got the Peak Design quick release things. I literally have these on all my
You
cameras.
worry more about straps than I do. I'm like, as
Yeah.
long as it's got a strap for me, that's fine.
Yeah,
But
I mean-
like you were talking about your rolly one the other week, and it had to be like padded or for the Pentax. Sorry, it had to
Yeah.
be like certain padding.
Yeah, I mean, that one, I think, there's honestly not really anything special about this strap. Like, it's just fancy looking. But, like, the ones that I use on, like, my Pro digital camera and the one on the Pentax, they're actually, like, a bit more functional. They're heavy cameras, and a bigger strap does really help when you're carrying it for a long time. I mean, the Pentax is so heavy, but that strap's amazing. Like, I don't even feel it. So, yeah, but this camera's light enough that you can just use a thin strap
Bit
like
of
this.
string.
Yeah. And they do look cool with those straps because it fits like the aesthetic of the old style camera. I've got a few Reflex Lab flashes. Yeah, this is a little, I can't remember what they call it, pocket flash or mini flash. Yeah. And then they released this one, which is like a little bit bigger, a bit more powerful. But then I've also got this, which is an original Nikon SB, what's it called? SBE. And actually, this is probably the best one, but it's just quite big. But the way these work is this one's got like a nice scale on it that kind of tells you, depending on what ISO you've got, you just set it to the you just set it to the aperture, and then you just shoot, and it pretty much can't miss. It just works. And these are pretty much the same. I've actually got settings written on them just to give me like a guideline of where I'm at.
Do you think it's worthwhile getting those just to have?
I actually don't shoot flash that often. I probably don't need 3. But I think I'm just a bit of a Reflex Lab fanboy because I think these are really cool. These are really nice quality. Like, these are both metal.
They look cool, yeah.
And like, these could easily have just been plastic, but they've actually made them out of metal. Like, it's really nice.
Issues we've had multiple issues. Both of mine have been sent off to be repaired at different times. The most common one I think we both had is mirror lockup.
Yeah, which, I mean, if without being a technician, I don't really know what causes that. I'd imagine there's several things that just cause the camera to lock up, but I know there are some quite sensitive elements underneath the prism, electrical elements, that if you drop it and it has an impact here, that can be affected. Yeah. And that will cause that. But a lot of the time, if your mirror locks up, put it into M90, and it'll probably
flings back.
Pop back down.
Sometimes it's done that for me. And
sometimes, well, for me, on this one, it did pop it back down, but then it just went back up again, so there was something deeper wrong. Yeah. But I got that fixed. What else?
Advanced lever stucks happened to me. I think that was the thing that happened to me in Spain.
And actually, do you remember you had one of these got stuck, and I actually took the bottom off and jiggled around some levers. This
is my first one, so I
think
it was.
And it actually released it.
You just went like...
I just took the bottom off, moved some levers around, and it just went ping and sorted it. So
I think I still needed to send it off to someone. So
there was something else.
It got sorted, yeah.
But if you're brave enough, you can take the bottom off and mess around with the levers. Don't do that, actually.
All speed stopped working.
All speed stopped working. Yeah, that was pretty much what happened to me.
Yeah.
It had battery. It worked on M90, but none of the speeds worked. The mirror just locked up every time. Yeah, I don't actually know what that was, but I think it probably was something electrical in the top prism here. But that seems to be the most common thing when I was reading online about it. But yeah.
And then frame counter issues. I had this where
so did I.
It just when you reloaded filming, it just went back to 6 rather than S.
Yeah.
And then so by the time I got to like 36, I was like kind of guessing how many I'd got left.
Yeah.
But when we were shooting Harman Phoenix like last week before, I took the Harman Phoenix out and I was like, oh, it's back to S.
Nice.
So it kind of sorted. That's been like a 6-month issue.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be something that's just like gummed up inside, and it's just randomly released itself. I think mine was like the other way round. It went up to like 26 and then didn't keep going. So you'd open the back, it'd go back to 0, but
then get stuck at 26 again.
Yeah. But that got fixed. Funnily enough, I'm on 26 now.
You've got aperture metering ring broke as well.
That was yours. So we showed earlier about how these...
on the lens, yeah.
How these cameras, the lens kind of talks to this lever here, this ring here.
This is my fault, wasn't it?
I don't know. I was
putting the lens on in London.
Yeah,
it was raining and it was dark. And I was
you're
like,
rushing. Yeah.
And I fucked it.
Yeah, I think you probably could like catch that bit there and maybe, but basically I actually looked at this ring is connected to like a piece of string that goes like all the way round and up to here, and it like it's inside of cameras are honestly so confusing, but like this ring like talks to the ISO dial so that it can then like tell the meter, you know, what the settings are. It's like it's well confusing, but anyway, that string essentially either snaps or like comes off of the end of it, so then it just goes all loose. Like you can see this is like springy.
Yeah.
There. Yours would like, you'd turn your aperture
and it would just go with it. Yeah.
You turn your aperture, you turn it back, and it wouldn't come back. So then the camera would think you're at like f22, but you've actually gone wide open, and then your settings.
So the lens wasn't talking to the camera.
Yeah, and then your settings would be all over the place because the camera thinks it needs to shoot darker.
Yeah. Luckily, that was right at the end of the shoot where we were, so it wasn't too bad.
You didn't have any like ruined shots.
It was annoying.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, now I don't have a camera.
Yeah. It's something worth knowing. Just be gentle putting the lenses on, because that's.
I think like you've got to bear all this in mind if you're buying this camera, and probably any old camera that is probably going to go wrong. You might have to send it off to get repaired.
Yeah.
But I think like you see the newer, well, there's like film cameras coming out now that are newer, but they're like very expensive. So I think you probably have to build this into any purchase you're going to make. Like you have to think about, it probably will have to get repaired at some point.
Yeah.
But like the fully electronic ones, they're not going to get repaired. Whereas like these, you can get them repaired and they work perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And like good as new.
Repairs, I actually think are quite reasonable. Like, and these were so mass produced. Like the good thing about the Nikons is there are so many that the parts are pretty easy to get. Like I'm sure there's some other brands that, you know, they only made that model for a couple of years, and maybe certain parts are quite hard to get. But yeah, like our guy has never had an issue like fixing stuff.
It's just like, send it over. But like also with him, which was good, we had like 6-month warranty, so something else went wrong. And he's like, it's covered.
And he did it,
So that was good.
Yeah. Well, we'll give him...
I'll put it in the description,
Yeah, because I think he is really good.
Lightleaks.
Yeah.
I've not had this, but you had this. With one you bought. Was it this one?
No, it was one of my older ones. One of my first ones, I think. It had like a light leak at the back of the mirror box. So I never actually resolved it. I don't know. Like I got the repair guy to like replace that seal, but I think it still did it. I can't actually remember. That might have fixed it, but anyway, there's like it's not this light seal here. That's actually just the mirror bumper. It's actually right at the back of the mirror box. It's really hard to replace, like if you're not, if you don't have a steady hand. And yeah, like light was, I think, getting in through the viewfinder, getting past that seal and onto the film, and it kind of just looked like a normal light leak, like coming from the rear door. But like I had all those changed, and I even did like tests, like shining light around the door, and yeah, I just couldn't replicate it. It was a very weird thing, but it's something worth noting. Something worth noting. You can actually check this if you like. If you've got one in person to check, you can actually just put it onto like 8 seconds and just have a look down there at the. Obviously, it's going to be hard to see on here, but you can just look down there and see if that seal is good.
So you had this when you bought a brand new one.
What, this one?
Yeah.
I think something I wanted to mention was, just because you've got like a proper tatty one like this, it doesn't mean you're going to have loads of issues. And just because you buy a super clean one like this doesn't mean you're never going to have issues. This one has issues, but it's actually never stopped me from taking a photo, whereas this one actually has. Generally, if they have this rubber sort of eye piece, it's probably pretty mint. Yeah, which I don't. This is the only one I've ever had that's actually got it. Most of them do not have that. The reason being because this sits up against your chest or your side, and it just rubs. And so most of those eyepieces are just completely worn down or they've peeled away. So if you find one with that, it's either been replaced, but they're not that easy to get, or it's barely been used. Because I've even noticed this is worn down since I've had it. Like you see how it's like kind of worn at the front. It was like mint when I bought it. So yeah, that's just something that I've noticed, that if it's like that, it's probably quite mint.
You've got things to look out for when you're buying one, if you got one in person. So check there's no deep scratches or creases on the shutter.
Yeah.
Make sure that the shutter fires and is in good condition.
You know, if you're buying it on eBay, it's always going to be a bit of a gamble. I tried to get stuff that says it's working and tested.
I think look at what the buyer's selling as well. If they're selling loads of film cameras, they probably know what they're talking about when they say what condition it's in. Whereas I had a guy who sold me some film the other day, and it was wound back in.
Oh, that.
And they couldn't tell me if it was used or not, or he just wound it in and then sold it.
That's weird.
I reckon it's used.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shall I just get it developed?
No, because then if it's not used, it'll just be a blank roll of film, and you'll.
So I have some mystery double exposures. That's a video.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you've got a seller that just sells film cameras, they will know what they're talking about.
Yeah. But if you do get one in person, it's just worth opening the back, cocking the shutter, and just making sure that opens, and just checking the condition of this, like make sure it doesn't look like someone's stuck their finger through it, which I've seen in cameras like that. If that does that, and the lens does that, you will be able to take pictures, essentially. The only thing you won't be able to test is like the accuracy of the shutter speeds, which you need equipment to do. But just make sure the shutter fires. That's it.
Price range from around £50 for non-working spares, which if you're going to repair these yourselves, it might be worth getting a few on the cheap.
Yeah,
but I think just send it off to someone.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think you can you could pick one up for £50 that's untested and spend £60 getting it repaired, and then you've got a working camera for £110.
How much was yours when you bought yours? I think I spent about 150 on each of them. I'm guessing, I can't remember. But
so my first one was 110, I think, something like that. I can't remember how much the one was that I had to send back. I think it was more though, 150-ish. This one was actually from Japan, so 20-30% of what I spent was import fees.
Yeah, right.
But I think it was about £200, which actually I think is really good for the condition. But then this was £90, and it's
right. Did it already have that bit missing on the side?
No, I took that off. I've made it look a bit rare since I've had it, just because it's my beat up camera. So yeah, I think if you're paying less than £100 for the body, it's going to be a gamble.
Yeah,
you could definitely get one that works for that, but then it might need repairs.
Yeah.
Best examples are from Japan, like that one, but you will pay import fees. So just expect that.
Untested doesn't always mean not working. But that's a bit of a risk, isn't it? Yeah,
it's definitely a risk. I mean, like I said, if you get one untested for £50, it's a gamble. It's a good gamble because the repairs are pretty cheap. I guess it depends what's not working, but
and you'll be without a camera for probably 3 to 6 weeks.
Yeah,
it gets repaired.
Yeah. So if you spend £50 on one, don't expect to be shooting straight away because it might just not work.
Yeah.
So yeah. A perfect FE should be around 220 to 250 just for the body, which is what this was. But I think a safe amount to get a fully working one is 100 to 150. If it says fully working anyway. I mean, if it's 100 quid and it says untested, I'd still say that's a risk, and I'd say they're probably ripping you off, like trying to get 100 quid for something that's untested. But yeah, 100 to 150, if it says it's fully working, it's probably going to be pretty good.
How much can you expect to pay for lenses?
I always say to people, when they want to get into SLRs, and I recommend this, I say you should be able to get a working camera and a lens for £200 or less. Take my first FE, right, was 110 quid, and then my 50mm was, I think, 60. I think yours was probably similar, wasn't it?
Yeah. Both mine came with lenses, and I bought the 28 later.
Oh, it came with lens. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, lenses, like, they really vary. Like, there's really high-end lenses that, you know, you can spend hundreds on. But the E-series lenses, which are like the budget ones, are all really cheap, and actually I think they're really good.
Yeah.
If you want a compact lens, all the E-series ones are good. Like, this is a 28 and a 50mm, and like you probably won't need anything else. That's pretty good. And then there's the 35, which is pretty compact as well. But yeah, that was like 60. I think that was 60. That was probably 60 as well. Like 60 quid's kind of the norm for the cheaper lenses. And then you step up to like, I think this was like 150, 200 quid. It's just nicer quality glass. Like, it'll be a bit sharp.
That's so nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then this was actually really cheap, but these are normally quite expensive. This one's a bit like loose and the
rattly.
The aperture's not very. It's quite stiff. Things to look out on lenses is obviously like scratches on the front element, but also fungus. Which if it has fungus, a good eBay seller will put pictures in, and they will say that, and it will be cheaper. And a lot of the time, it won't actually affect the photos. The risk with fungus is it will get worse, and then it will affect your photos. So, you know, you might get a cheaper lens if it's got fungus, but you might not want that in the long run.
So, would you buy another one?
Would I buy another one? Well, if this one like died to the point where it couldn't get fixed, I would.
Yeah, I would as well.
And
like, if I needed another go-to camera, if these died, I would get another one.
Yeah, but I do think this is like one of the best FEs, and I don't know if I would find a better one than this. Like, I'm really happy with it. So it's just super clean and just looks nice. And the prices actually have stayed quite like stable. It doesn't seem like they've shot up or anything. So,
but now we're influencers. They're going to shoot through the fucking roof.
Yeah, they might do. Then maybe I'll be able to sell this one for a profit.
Thank you for watching. If you've watched this far, good on you. Bloody hell. Give yourself a pat on the back. We'll see you next week for more adventures on film.
Thanks.
Milton Keynes next week.
Ooh, wow, that's really exciting. Right.